Hey guys, HMK once again. Welcome back to my channel. I have got a big Zelda Wii U / NX / Nintendo NX and all this big debacle, all this news that came out recently. I've got a huge discussion in store for you guys, and I am not alone. I am joined by three awesome content creators here on YouTube and three people I can honestly call my friends. Let me introduce them to you guys. First and foremost, we have Rabbidluigi.
Oh god, it's Rabbidluigi. Hello everybody. I make videos on YouTube. I make videos about video games on YouTube, as many people do, mostly about countdowns and various things. And I don't know, I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about this crazy news and the various repercussions of it. So glad to be here.
Alright, thank you for being here as well. Now, we have Lockstin of channel Gnoggin.
Hello, hello. It is I, Lockstin, in all of my supposedly awesome glory. I make videos as well. That's why I'm here.
Sweet. And we have, last but not least, we have the man that broke the internet for about a week. Twice! I am still counting that second time. I'm still counting it as you, man. You want to deny it, but I still think it was you. We have ArtsyOmni.
How's it going, guys? I am the infamous Rayman leaker and co-lead creator of Smashified. So that's that. I don't know why I'm here, but maybe we can talk about some NX and some Zelda stuff, because I love that.
I want to talk about Rayman. I want to talk about Rayman. Don't know about you, but we can talk about that another day.
Rabbit, another day. We out. You know, because I do love Rayman, but I digress. We digress. And I'm pretty sure all of us here are gigantic Zelda fans, and that's why we're here. Yeah. And we're gigantic Nintendo fans.
So yeah.
And that's why we're here as well. So, if you guys don't know about the news that's been breaking YouTube, been breaking Twitter, been breaking Facebook, in the most recent quarterly report from Nintendo, President Kimishima revealed that the Nintendo NX is going to be released worldwide in March 2017, and it will not make an appearance at E3 2016. Not only this, Zelda Wii U has been confirmed to be dual released on the NX simultaneously and has been delayed into 2017. So there is a huge shitstorm going on Twitter right now, and a lot of people have a lot of differing opinions about this. First, let's start with the most, I would say the most core thing that a lot of people are talking about. Zelda Wii U finally being confirmed as Zelda NX. How do you guys feel about that?
Mixed feelings. Very mixed
feelings, definitely. Like, I mean, they did it before with Twilight Princess. So I think it's not that big of a deal. I mean, they have to promote their new console somehow, and Zelda it's their second biggest franchise, so it's really the best choice to do so. But no one really likes delays either.
It's kind of a tricky point, because the Wii U, I'm not going to say it's suffered too much. It's done reasonably well, but it's suffered from the fact that there weren't really good games that people would want to buy straight out of the gate. The reason why you buy a console is for the games. So theoretically, on release date in March next year, of course, we'll get to that later. But theoretically, the fact that you can buy an NX with Zelda NX, which sounds weird, that technically, theoretically, going to keep saying those words, should work. The only problem is, what does it do for the Wii U?
Exactly.
It kind of doesn't do anything.
Exactly, and I like that point you made, because a lot of people are saying that, hey, the Wii U is a failure, the Wii U is sunk, that's why they're shipping off Zelda Wii U onto the NX. But like you said, the reason why people buy consoles is because of games. So how do you expect people to buy the fucking Wii U if Zelda Wii U is not on the system, and now the fact that it's going on the NX, why does anyone have what's the reason for people to stick around the Wii U? But I want to know what Omni thinks about the situation.
They don't have a reason to stick around for the Wii U, and that's kind of the point. I think Nintendo already understands that the Wii U is not I don't want to say a lost cause, but they understand that at this point in time, to try to rescue the system with some sort of system, so like a Zelda game wouldn't do enough at this point in time. So I think putting all of their guns onto the NX is the right choice, even though it's a little bit bitter, because there was never a real Zelda, like an original Zelda release on this generation for the Wii U. That's like one of the, I think, the only generation to not get an original Zelda until...
It's the only console Nintendo has ever made which has not had an original Zelda game.
Yeah, a unique game to that console. So
yes,
it's a little bit tough, but
that
I
is
think
definitely better, yo. Yeah, it's definitely smart. I understand it from a logical standpoint, from an economical standpoint, but I mean, it's so bitter because a lot of people bought the system for Zelda. You know, they waited patiently since 2014 and even before. You know, we've had whispers about Zelda Wii U since 2012, and a lot of people has been waiting patiently with their Wii U, you know, snugging it to their heart and stuff. And of course, it didn't sell well, but the people who did buy were waiting patiently, and now I feel like a lot of those people are getting gypped because, you know, at the same time, you know, looking at the Twilight Princess situation when it was released on the GameCube and the Wii U, I'm pretty sure, I think it's safe to say from my end that the Wii version was superior to the GameCube version. And I feel that history may repeat itself with the NX version being superior to the Wii U version. So, you know, why stick around and play it on the Wii U, right?
The best thing you could say about the Wii U and the various, I wouldn't say the best thing, there's some good games on there, but one of the biggest things to take away from the Wii U is that maybe Nintendo have learned their lesson and saying that if we just ignore the Wii U for the rest of its lifetime, I don't know how long that's going to be, but if we just sort of completely put it to one side and focus on the NX early and give it games early, it might not repeat itself. They might actually have a good launch day with the NX, which is, I wouldn't say it's a strange thing, but the release, the games that the consoles have been released with has been gradually declining, and they could use a shot in the arm, a boost nice and early to make sure you don't fall into the same problems.
Definitely.
New Zelda bundled with the NX would be a good choice.
Exactly, you know, can you imagine a NX, you know, a custom NX, Zelda NX, similar to how they did with the Wind Waker HD Wii U, even though it was just a gamepad, something like that would definitely get, you know, people buying, get people rolling and stuff, because, oh, God knows that the Wii sold extremely well at launch because it had Twilight Princess. So maybe they decided to do that with the NX, but it still does rub me the wrong way as people were waiting patiently for this game on the Wii U. Now, let's shift a little bit. We're going to go back and forth with Zelda Wii U, Zelda NX and stuff like that, but I want to shift a little over to the NX. Now, we do know the NX is coming out sometime in March 2017 worldwide, but it's not going to be at E3 whatsoever. And a big reason for that, not even a reason, but something that could have affected that is because Nintendo wants Zelda Wii U to be the main Nintendo focus at E3. So much so, it's going to be the only playable demo at the show floor. Now, I want to clarify before a lot of people get, you know, very angered or whatever. It is not going to be the only game they showcase there, but it's going to be the only game that's playable there. What do you guys think about that?
It's an interesting choice. It really shows that they're just putting a lot of focus and energy into promoting this Zelda. And with all of the information we do know about it being more open world and that they're changing the Zelda formula, they're putting a lot of money into advertising this. So I'm sure their marketers are paranoid about whether or not it will do well.
Well, they should be, because I mean we've gone like more than a year without almost nearly nothing. So I'm glad that they're, you know, decide to like, hey, let's really, you know, shift our focus and putting this game into the spotlight like never before. So I'm glad for that. But I mean, it does, you know, seem a bit odd for Nintendo to do something like that.
I think it's interesting because in a roundabout way, it's a promotion for both the last, you know, like a swan song for the Wii U, but as well as an NX game. Even though they're only going to be able to play the Wii U version, I can't imagine that the differences are going to be stark enough that it wouldn't also be an effective way to market a game that's going to be hopefully a launch game on the NX. We don't know that. There's no confirmation that it is a launch game, but in a way, they're sort of promoting an NX game early. So that's, I think, interesting. But it is a little bit strange that they're not choosing to release or unveil the NX at E3, which I think is the most logical place to do it. But on the other hand, if you have a dedicated event exclusively for Nintendo to reveal something that they're working on, and something as big as a hardware launch, it might be a smart thing to have all eyes on them instead of having to divide the attention among all of the other gaming companies that are going to be present at E3. Nintendo doesn't get as much attention at E3 these days anyways, so maybe they're just playing into the fact that maybe they're not really targeting that same exact demographic as all of these other companies anymore.
Trying to build hype.
Yeah, definitely.
It depends on how much emphasis you want to put on E3, because Nintendo have shown throughout the year that they are fully capable of doing directs, and that's fine. It's the question of, is that global audience at E3 enough, or could you sacrifice that for a dedicated showing later in the year or early next year or something? Would it help? Would it benefit? Would it actually make it a lot harder? You know, the fact that they've got to know that if they go to E3 this year, people are going to be asking about it. They're going to say, "Oh, how's the NX?" They're not allowed to tell you. You have to play Zelda, which is again a very strange thing. Because why would you go to a great big conference, the pinnacle of gaming information to the consumer in a year, and have one game to play? That's very inclusive. Well, not inclusive. It's putting all your eggs in one basket and then throwing it out the window. It's not a good idea.
I totally agree with you.
It might work. It might work if they have a direct later on in the year, and that, you know, there's an awful lot to explain in a direct. It's a big risk, and to be honest, it's a risk they don't really need to take. But I think they're trying something which no one else would try, and seeing if that might help them.
I feel that Nintendo shouldn't be allowed to take gambles at this point. You know, their stock has been taking hits. The past report showed that their profits were down 61%. So, I mean, like, I understand that Nintendo's that one company that, you know, marches to the beat of their own drum. But, I mean, it's come to the point where they're going to have to take, you know, pointers from the big guns, the other big guns in the companies, and what they've been doing and how they've been successfully, you know, marketing their systems, their games, and all that stuff like that, and take pointers from that. You know, for the longest, people's been taking stuff from Nintendo, and it's at that point where, you know, Nintendo has to do the same, because I love Nintendo to death, but, you know, each year it's getting harder and harder for me to defend them. And they used to be the leader they used to be the leader in innovation, but I feel that the innovation sense of Nintendo is getting a bit misplaced. And I don't want Nintendo to stop innovating. Hell no. That's what Nintendo is known for. That's what they're capable of. But I mean, like, it's to a point where, you know, hey, this is a little much, you know?
They should start innovating with the games more and less with the systems.
Definitely. You know,
God.
They want to try and, you know, make it a grand experience and stuff. And then we know for a fact that the NX is going to be another console with another gimmick. And I hope this gimmick doesn't overpower the console itself like it did with the Wii and the Wii U. But we're going to have to wait and see about that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion that we could open an entirely different can of worms regarding like the state of the AAA industry and the market for
hours.
For hardware that's super powerful compared to investing in PCs and things like that. But when it comes to Nintendo's way of innovating, I feel like one of the failures of the Wii U was that it was too far into the regular, like, traditional console space, but not quite. It had one foot in that door, but it wasn't willing to commit to that with the power, which is what that market requires. It demands that. So I think with the NX, I think they do have a chance at trying to create a new market like they did with the Wii, because the Wii U did not create a new market. It basically just cut their market in half because some people don't like the way the Wii U did things, but it also tried to capture the hardcore audience. So if the NX is something completely new, and Kimishima's released a statement saying that the NX is supposed to be a new way of thinking and a successor to both the Wii U and the 3DS. So if it is that, then I do think maybe if they hold their own event, and maybe if it's an actual physical event rather than just a digital presentation, then it could be something like Space World where people actually do come out and see what the heck Nintendo is up to.
Right.
And if they can kind of capture that sort of dynamic that Apple has with their own events that they do, if they can kind of bring that dynamic to their company and their brand, that would be pretty great. But they're not in that position yet, so they have a lot to prove to be able to pull that off.
Definitely.
That's a really good point.
They're not in an advantageous position to take the gamble, is the problem. The last couple of years they've been making some incredible decisions which haven't really benefited them. So it's not quite a last resort because they're not in that position, but it's not from a strong position. They're doing this in an attempt to get the ball rolling rather than, you know, moving the ball in a different direction as it's rolling. It could work, but it's a massive risk.
Right, you know, I feel that if Nintendo decides to do their own things, like something similar to what Omni said when the Apple conferences and stuff like that, sure, it could work if Nintendo wasn't in this predicament they dug themselves into. The only two big shows that I can think of right now after E3 is Gamescom and Tokyo Game Show, and those, you know, I say they do get a huge following because the Gamescom is the biggest game show in Europe, and if not the biggest, I think it's the largest attended game show of the year. And then Tokyo Game Show in its own right has a lot of potential for them to show off their stuff as well. But Nintendo's never really had a huge establishment in Tokyo Game Show. It was always like E3 and GDC a little bit, but it's very weird. I mean, I really want to know what they're planning to do with the reveal of the NX if it's not going to be E3. But I want to gear back a little bit back to Zelda. And this is one thing that I did realize when Zelda NX was pushed out into 2017, and something that did anger me a little bit. I feel that Nintendo themselves really did ruin, or at least put a huge dapper on the Zelda 30th anniversary due to this delay. And that is something that is unacceptable. You know, everyone's like, oh, delays are fine. I'm like, yeah, delays are fine. I'm used to delays. I mean, I'm a Zelda fan. You know, Zelda games get delayed all the time. Sure, you know, but they were able to delay Skyward Sword out of 2010 into 2011, and you know, get it going for the 25th anniversary, which was great. You know, in hindsight, that was the better choice. So when I heard that Zelda Wii U was delayed out of 2015 into 2016, I took that with half a whole heart. And I'm like, okay, cool, the 30th anniversary, you know, we're able to celebrate this, you know, game in style. We're able to celebrate the game with the year. But now it's going on to 2017, so what is the 30th anniversary even for? You know what I mean?
I feel like this would have worked really well if you shift it back a year. If you spend, okay, it would mean that you would spend the whole of E3 2015 talking about Zelda, which probably isn't a brilliant idea, but it would then mean that you would release it for the 30th anniversary. That would be fine. The problem is we have no idea what state the game is in. We don't know if it's near completion, if they're, you know, ironing out bugs, and there's lots of bugs because it's a very complicated game. We know we've seen 2 trailers. We know nothing about the. Well, we know bits about the game,
and a screenshot.
Substantial amount.
Mm-hmm. Can't forget that
we've had a few screenshots. Oh god, I see that in my dreams. It's beautiful. But the problem is when you then have it's just as well they are dedicating E3 to it, because you've got to. If that is the banker, if you're trying to lift the NX beyond where the Wii U was at the start of its cycle, you're going to need a lot of time to explain why you should buy Zelda for the NX. Because you've said nothing, very little in the last 2 years.
Not even a name.
You've got a lot to say. Not even a name.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
I think
how do you market a game without a name? Anyway,
yeah, I think it's really clear that Zelda Wii U/NX has had a very rocky development cycle, and I think they were hoping that when they announced these tentative dates that they would get their acts together sometime to actually be able to reach those dates. But I think there's just been enough turmoil in the development that they just couldn't make it work. And I think maybe they were obviously targeting Zelda to release as a 30th anniversary game. I think their priority number one is to make sure that the game is really the ultimate Zelda game that they want, and I think it just came down to the harsh reality that they needed to delay at least a few more months to be able to make that happen. And it's unfortunate. Maybe they'll still try to market it as a 30th anniversary game despite the fact that it comes out the year after, but that would be weird. So who knows? But until we know more about Zelda as a game and how we won't really know whether or not the NX will have any sort of unique selling point, because as of this point we have no idea what the NX is even like or how this Zelda plays and what other Zeldas. So until we see that, we won't know if the NX version has any sort of value proposition to promote.
I definitely can agree with all that, and I'm sure Nintendo themselves are feeling it too. I mean, they definitely wanted this as a 30th anniversary game, but sometimes things don't go as planned.
Definitely. Now, I'm wrapping this up a little bit as we go, but I want to ask you, fine gentlemen, what do you guys expect to see in terms of Zelda Wii U at E3? Like we've already said multiple times, it will be the only playable game on the showroom floor, and for Nintendo at least. And Nintendo has rented a huge area once again for E3 just to have, you know, Zelda Wii U playable. I recall back in E3 2005 that Nintendo had a huge Twilight Princess themed theme. It was like a mini theme park within E3 that people would go inside and play Twilight Princess. They had animatronic wolves, animatronic Stalfos, all this awesome stuff. I feel that if they try to replicate that same feeling again, they'll be on the right track to promote Zelda Wii U or Zelda NX. But at the same time, I feel that they need to really dig deep on revealing what this game is, where the story, what direction the story is going, a name, artwork, trailers, the whole shebang. But I want to get specifics from you guys.
Well, I think what they often do, and this has happened in other E3s when they play Zelda games there, they probably are going to break up the experience of playing the game into different facets and then have multiple sort of stations for those, or at least multiple demos for those different experiences. Like exploring the overworld, exploring a dungeon, and so they're probably going to break it up in that way. As for why they have such a huge space, I have no idea if it's going to be one game, but maybe they'll try to do something crazy in terms of making the space very, very Zelda themed, and maybe trying to bring the exploration element out of the game and into the show floor, which
would be
kind of
awesome.
crazy.
Holy shit!
You gotta find the demos.
Yeah, find the game before you can play it. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I think we're definitely going to see something of a dungeon, and since exploration in the overworld is such a big facet to this game, as far as we can tell, they're probably going to have to create some sort of demo experience that really hammers home why this new type of Zelda is good.
I hope they didn't delay the game just so that they could make a really cool E3 show.
Yeah.
We're not done with the planning, it's gotta be next gen. Oh
my goodness. Man, because...
Lesson.
I'm just thinking about Lockstin, so that would be horrible. But I mean, like, at the same time, that fear was always creeping up behind me, saying that, hey, they're going to promote at E3. Is it going to be enough time between E3 and their supposed 2016 release date? But now, hey, look, now they have more time. Great.
I was actually going to bring up the 2005 E3 also with their Twilight Princess themed showcase, just because that's just one way to get all the journalists there involved, and if they have something else to talk about on top of just here's the game, then that's just it opens up their own imagination, their own I want to say creativity, but I know that's not the right word, but it's to get journalists more involved and essentially hyped for the game, because a lot of marketing these days is all hype based.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Aside from Smash Bros, I don't think Nintendo's really used hype to market a game before. So I think they're still experimenting with it.
Not really, because they did try really hard with the Smash Invitational and stuff. And the only time they had like a hyped event last year at E3 was with the Nintendo World Championship. But I never really understood the point behind that. Because I mean, like, what are you doing? Are you marketing any games that are going to be released? I mean, other than freaking, what's it called, Battle Ball that turned out to be Metroid Prime Federation Force. Fuck. That's like about it, what they did with that.
No, there was Super Mario Maker at the end of Nintendo World Championship. That was pretty cool. But I would say, kind of. I would say, sort of going back to a different thing, a different version of E3. I think it was E3. I can't remember when they showed off Skyward Sword in 2010. I think
2011. I think. With the orchestra.
With the motion controls, where they did it in front of a crowd and it didn't quite work. That's not what I'm bringing up. But the fact that they've got to get people excited about the game, and they could give them information. They could have the whole massive, great big showcase of various bits, but it's got to have something to excite journalists and fans and investors and that sort of thing. So I feel like it's the problem, because they said they wouldn't mention the NX or really do anything, but I feel like they have to show the unique selling point of this Zelda in particular, and if it's being made with the NX in mind, I feel like they don't have to, but it would be a good idea if they showed off what the NX is going to do with this Zelda, which is going to be revolutionary. Because there are a certain amount of things which the Wii U can do, and the gamepad can be a map, and you can press beacons on the map, and you can go to those places. It's really cool. That's fine. We've seen that. It's not that exciting. The NX has the potential to be something new and exciting, and with the reveal, with the extended showcase of Zelda Wii U, NX, whatever you want to call it, they've got to link it back. And I feel, even though they said they're not going to mention the NX or show it off, they kind of not have to, but like show a little bit of it to get people excited about this Zelda in relation to every other Zelda. Because, what else have you got?
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, because in that sense, when we see what Zelda Wii U is capable of, we can use that and try to apply it to what the NX may be able to do, since they're both quote-unquote the same game released simultaneously, unless they're going to do something drastic in terms of differences. So, I mean, like, if we do take that and apply it to the NX, it's like, okay, the NX may be capable of this, capable of that. From off the bat, I can already say that the NX more than likely is going to have amiibo support, because, I mean, the amiibos have been doing way too well for them just to drop them after the 3DS and the Wii U, and the fact that the Wolf Link amiibo is going to transfer data from Twilight Princess HD onto Zelda Wii U, it could probably do the same for NX. So, I mean, that's one of the things that's one of the things that we can use like our prior knowledge to apply to the future of the Nintendo NX and stuff. So I have one last question / topic to ask you guys before we wrap up, and that is, how do you feel right now about the state of Nintendo at this point? Because, you know, the NX not coming out to 2017, that's no big deal, but the NX not being 83, kind of a big deal. Zelda Wii U being on the NX, you know, jumping ship from Wii U to NX, they're totally, I feel like they're really abandoning the Wii U, and, you know, Zelda being delayed out of the 30th anniversary. How do you feel about the state of Nintendo? I feel I haven't been this scared for a Nintendo stock in a long time. So, you know, I feel that if Nintendo continues making these weird decisions where, you know, we present this, but, you know, we'll give you answers way later, that is not a good strategy to go by. So I want to know what you guys think.
People have been saying, oh, Nintendo's going to die this time next year for probably 10 years now.
Yeah.
So it's always something to consider, that people have that idea in their minds, and that always creates a bias. But I think this is the first time that I am also legitimately part of that boat. Just because a lot of the games they've been releasing lately have all been okay-ish to good-ish. They haven't really wowed me anytime recently. And that's... is the best description I can come up with, because there are no words for the, I guess, disappointment that I'm feeling. Just because Nintendo is what I grew up with. It's what it's what a lot of people grew up with. And just these business decisions. I'm hoping that with the new president, they'll start changing things up. And I think that might be what's happening, and why they're abandoning the Wii U. While that is hurting the fans that bought a Wii U, I'm hoping in the long run it will bring Nintendo out of this hole they've dug themselves in.
I think it's a very fascinating situation in many different areas, because it's not just Zelda, because, you know, Zelda's had some problems. It should have come out last year, probably should have come out this year. We don't know. We don't have the state of the game. But it's also things like Metroid 30th anniversary this year. We got a 3DS game which could be good. That's not brilliant. There was a Mario. Could be. It might be amazing. We have no idea. If it's terrible, you know, there's going to be riots in the street of everywhere. But it's a sort of an extended problem, and you wonder if it's a problem with Nintendo being disconnected with their fan base and not really knowing what they want. Because surely it's an easy answer. They know their fan base for the last 30 years. They know what they've built up. Why not just keep building? I mean, they have brought new things like Splatoon as their new IP is fine, but you can't abandon the old ones. You've got to keep building in the right direction. And I'm not so negative. As a business, they're doing all right. They have lost a bit of money, but they can turn that around, especially with a new console launch next year. But as a fan, as someone who grew up with Nintendo, absolutely obsessed over Nintendo, I can't remember who said it earlier, but they're becoming a lot harder to defend. Every new decision they're making, it's like, why? Why did you do that? How is there a plan? You know, last year when they delayed Wii U to this year, did they know that they would also be releasing it alongside the NX in 2017? Are they making it up on the spot?
Right.
We don't know. It's hard. It's becoming harder and harder to defend them and also have confidence in them, and it's not a death knell, but it's not good. It's not good.
It hurts the relationship between the fans and the company.
Definitely.
It really, really does.
Well, I think it's interesting to see Nintendo in this sort of transition period, because I'm 24, so I wasn't really cognizant of the state of Nintendo back in the GameCube days, because the GameCube didn't sell that well either. It sold better than the Wii U did, but it was also that at that point in time, there wasn't a lot of consumer confidence, I think, in Nintendo until the Wii happened, and the Wii was, as they said, a revolution for them, and they were trying to approach the market from more of a blue ocean kind of thing, not trying to compete with these really powerful consoles. So I feel like that's the point we're at now again with the Wii U, because the Wii U was sort of a financial failure. So as much as I love the Wii U and all of the games that I played on it, it's hard to try to say that the Wii U was even as good as the GameCube's life was. So going into this next generation, I think Nintendo has the potential to sort of revolutionize themselves again, in the same way that they did with the Wii. And I think it's going to be necessary unless if they don't, then it's like 2 GameCubes in a row, and that's not good. So it's hard to say. I don't know how I feel about Nintendo right now. I've been a hardcore Nintendo fan my entire life, but I find myself questioning their decisions more often than being happy with it. And the times where they make sensible decisions to me are more of an exception to the rule of the nonsense that they sometimes do. So it's really hard. But I think with the new leadership, with more of a business-minded president at the helm right now, I think there's potential for them to turn around. And that's my hope right now. Perhaps I have blind faith, but that's the best I can do. So
yeah, I totally feel we're all Nintendo fans here, and you know, we do want the company to do well, because this is a company that's provided great experiences and games for us for the past 30 years. So of course we want them to succeed. Of course we want them to do well and stuff. But it's really hard to try and like all of us have been saying, it's really hard to defend them. It's really hard to have confidence with them after these decisions, and seeing that these decisions are not proving fruitful whatsoever. So I mean, I really do hope that they turn this around with the NX, and I feel that Zelda Wii U, if it does turn out to be an NX launch title, it will be a great push forward in order to get the console out there. But at the same time, it's up to them to develop the console and develop the games after that to keep the steam rolling and keep the ball rolling after launch. So guys, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. This has been ArtsyOmni, Lockstin, and Rabbidluigi. I'm going to leave all the links to their channels in the description box below. Please be sure to check them out. So until the next discussion of Zelda Wii U, Zelda NX, Nintendo NX, and all of this Nintendo nonsense, I've been HMK, and we will check you guys later.